I'm James Lynch, and this is my stock report for UFC Louisville, which just took place last night. And in this video, we're going to talk about the biggest winners and losers from the event. And the thumbnail always gives it away, but to me, the biggest stock riser on this card was Dominick Reyes. Underdog going into this fight, back against the wall, and he gets a first-round finish over Dustin Jacoby. I believe that's the first stoppage loss for Jacoby in the UFC. And let me go double-check that right now. Correct. So again, really big win there for Reyes, who had a bit of a losing streak coming into this one. First win since October of 2019. You got to love that for Dominick Reyes. If he would have lost this fight, not only would we be talking about him getting released from the UFC, but we'd probably be talking about maybe a retirement. 3 straight knockout losses coming into this one, fighting a former Glory kickboxer in Dustin Jacoby. It was not a good matchup style-wise for him, but Reyes comes through, gets it done with the first round finish. To me, there's no doubt about it. Dominick Reyes is the biggest stock riser because, again, if he didn't win this, we'd be talking about him leaving the UFC and potentially retiring here. With this win, he's got new life in the light heavyweight division. So Dominick Reyes, an easy choice from a number 1 spot. Now, my second stock riser in this video, it might be a bit controversial, but you have to give it to him regardless of what happened with the stoppage, and that is Nassourdine Imavov. Now look, he was a favorite going into this fight. He was expected to win on the betting lines, but the fact that, in my opinion, he was ahead on the scorecards, and look, at the end of the day, I mean, talk about the referee stoppage all you want, Imavov at the end of the day will have a stoppage win over Cannonier. Cannonier has not been stopped in the middleweight division before, so that's a huge win. You think of some of the people that he has fought in the middleweight division, Cannonier that is, Adesanya, Whitaker, some of the big names in the weight class that haven't been able to take him out. The fact that Imavov now has that on his resume definitely puts him in a good position. Had the stoppage been legit, had there not been some questions of whether referee Jason Herzog should have kept this going a little bit longer, Imavov would have taken the top spot. I mean, this is a huge win. We're talking about Cannonier, who has a win already over Sean Strickland. I know that fight was close, but still, you look at where Cannonier was ranked. A lot of people felt like he should have got the next title shot. Instead, he has to fight Imavov, and Imavov comes through now. And this is another huge win for him, building off that victory over Roman Dolidze, unbeaten in his last 3 fights. This is huge for Imavov as he's going to be entering in the top 5 now of the middleweight division. Very good win for him there. Again, people are going to complain about the stoppage, but that's not his fault. That's the referee's fault. So at the end of the day, it is a stoppage win over Cannonier that absolutely boosts his stock in the middleweight division. And then my last stock riser on this one has to be Raul Rosas. We're going to go over there. Now look, I know he was favored to win this fight. He's had some weight cut issues, but at the end of the day, that's now back-to-back wins there for Raul Rosas. There's a lot of hype behind Raul Rosas that was halted by that loss to Christian Rodriguez. I keep forgetting that he's 19 years old. That's still crazy to me. And to get a finish here, I think was very key. Now, Terrence Mitchell, look, not a great opponent in that bounce-back fight after Christian Rodriguez. Ricky Turcios was an ultimate fighter, competitor, a veteran. This was a very good win for him. Another fighter as well that I think was going to give him a good test. And the big thing here is that he did end up making the weight as well. There's no issues. I mean, not that he had weight cut issues before, but there was, something going on as far as the last fight getting canceled. So for him to come back here, make weight, have no health issues, and to get a stoppage win, that's big for Raul Rosas, as the UFC obviously is going to continue to build this guy up. They keep going to Mexico. He is going to be one of their chips for those cards going forward. So as far as stock rises, Raul Rosas got to get that as well. And then we'll do a couple honorable mentions here that I wanted to talk about, as we usually do. Got to give a shout out to Bruno Ferreira, although again, very much favored to win this fight, but going out there and getting a first round finish, that's got to count for something. We got to talk about Zach Reese getting a performance bonus over Julian Marquez. 22nd knockout, doesn't get much better than that. Got to give credit to Zach Reese again, coming off a loss in his UFC debut, so bouncing back against a veteran like Julian Marquez, very impressive. And then I wanted to talk as well about Puna Soriano. Here's someone that switched weight classes, again was on a bit of a skid, right? If you look at middleweight, had a lot of tough outings there. Lost to Dustin Stolfus in a fight that he should have won. Kopylov got finished there. Lost, I think he'd only won 1 fight in the UFC, at least recently, against a guy that's not even in the UFC. So to get a win over Baeza, I thought Soriano looked great at welterweight. Very, very big win for him there as far as getting it done. So Soriano's going to get honorable mention, as will be Ludwig Klein and Prats as well. Those are some good wins too on the card. Can't name everyone on this card, but got to give those as some honorable mentions on the event. All right, let's talk about some of the biggest losers on this card. When I say losers, I just mean stock droppers. I'm not actually figuratively meaning losers, although he did not win this fight. Cannonier at the end of the day. Now, look, I know a lot of people will contest with this because it wasn't really his fault about the stoppage. I thought the stoppage wasn't very good either. But at the end of the day, Cannonier is 40 years old. He's not getting any younger. When you lose, especially a stoppage loss, it really hurts your stock in the division. And I think at this point, it's safe to say that Cannonier will not get a middleweight title shot ever again in his career. Stranger things have happened. I said the same thing about Dustin Poirier when Gaethje knocked him out, but timing could work out. But Jared's going to need a big win to bounce back here in a big way. And I don't know if there's an opponent out there that he can look good against that he'll be able to do that. So it's disappointing. He had a layoff coming into this one. Obviously, really dominant win over Marvin Vettori. But again, I had Imavov slightly ahead on my scorecards going into that 4th round. And for him to get finished, again, even if... let's say the stoppage, let's say they let it go longer. Imavov was still ahead in this one. He definitely cracked Cannonier. He was not, didn't have his wits about him. And at the end of the day, this is a missed opportunity for Jared Cannonier. I know he's in the underdog going in, but still, there's a lot of high hopes there for Cannonier maybe being able to break through. He doesn't get it done. So Cannonier, one of the big stock droppers on our card. The other stock dropper I got to talk about on this card for sure is Dustin Jacoby, favorite in this fight. And now another disappointing fight. You look at the win streak that Jacoby had, and we can, count the Roundtree fight as a win. I mean, I thought he beat him in that fight, right? So there was a nice win streak there. Yeah, lost to Mirzakhanov, but I think Mirzakhanov is going to be beating a lot of guys in that division. Didn't really look too much into that. Had that big win over Kennedy and Cheku, and now that's 2 disappointing losses in a row. Like the Menafield fight, he should have won. This fight, I think he should have won too. There was an opportunity there. Again, he's got knockout power. I know he doesn't use it all the time in a lot of his fights, but there was a good style matchup for him here against Dominick Reyes, and he doesn't get it done. And look at the age there. Jacoby's 36. This is a tough loss for him to have. That's now, 4 of his last 5 fights as far as losses go. So that's going to be tough. I mean, the UFC obviously likes Jacoby. That's why they gave him this opportunity. But, his stock is definitely down here. It's going to likely boot him out of the rankings. I believe he might have already been out of the rankings before that as well. So Jacoby, one of the biggest stock droppers on this card. The other one we've got to talk about is Miguel Baeza. Now, look, I picked Soriano in this fight. I thought he was going to win. I think Baeza's chin's a bit of a liability. 31 years old, but coming off a long layoff coming into this one, and now you lose a fight here. That's 4 losses in a row. That's probably going to be the end of him in the UFC. At one point, this was a guy who had, wins over Matt Brown, looked really good, was, beating everyone, and now here he is with 4 straight losses. Not a good look for Baeza, who I think will get released after this. That's a tough loss for him. Again, he was favored, I believe, going into this fight, and he doesn't get it done. So that is an easy one to put here as a stock dropper. He's minus 200, doesn't get it done on this card. Okay, we got about a minute left here in the stock report. I got to mention some other honorable mentions for stock droppers. Julian Marquez has to be one. I really thought that the switching of camps, him going from Factory X to the MMA lab would pay dividends, but just unfortunate luck. He got caught. He fell over, and it was pretty much game over from that. Marquez wasn't out cold, but once that uppercut happened, Marquez couldn't do much on the ground. Zachary's doing a great job sort of capitalizing on this and getting the win. So yeah, Marquez's stock has dropped. He's now lost a number of fights now by stoppage. And again, at his age, at 34, not a good look here with him losing now 3 straight fights by stoppage loss. It's going to be a tough one with all of his wins coming against guys that aren't in the UFC anymore. So Marquez's days could be numbered on the UFC roster, which sucks. He's a really good guy. I wish him the best. It's too bad that happened. Andrea Lee surely is going to get cut from the UFC as well. That's another stock dropper, is one of my honorable mentions. This is a girl that she already defeated, couldn't get it done. I don't think it was a split. I thought Montana clearly won. That's 5 losses in a row. I think the Macy Barber fight probably should have gone her way, but at the end of the day, she's now lost 5 in a row. That's going to be the end of her as well in the UFC, I would imagine. 35 years old, no reason to keep Andrea Lee around. And my last one I got to mention as far as the stock dropper is Cody Stamann. That's back-to-back losses now. He had a full camp going into this one. It's unfortunate. At 34 years old, that's another key loss for Stamann. I think they'll give him one more, but again, he's lost now 4 of his last 6, 5 of his last 7. Not a good look there for Cody Stamann, who just hasn't been able to put things together. I think the Lapalus fight was winnable, but Lapalus, to his credit, looking great in this one and taking care of business and taking out Cody Stamann by decision. So in the comments, I want to be clear about this. I want to hear your biggest stock risers and biggest stock droppers, and give me 3 of them. I always hear people saying, I don't agree with your stock riser, stock dropper, but they never give me their own option. Please give me your option. Would love to hear from that. Apologies for the hat and getting this up late. I just got back from camping and I had to do some coaching this morning as well. So that's why the get-up's a little bit different. But please let me know your 3 biggest stock risers and 3 biggest stock droppers in the comments. Would love to hear from you. I'll be back tomorrow previewing the Alex Perez and Tyra card. Just keep an eye on that. And that's all I got, guys. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @LynchOnSports. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you like this video, hit that like button. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.